Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. Here you will learn all things related to healing from divorce, mind, body, and spirit, so you can create a beautiful new life filled with happiness. I'm Rachel Ruby, author of Divorce to Bliss, divorce coach, speaker, and attorney, and I'm so glad you found me here. Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. I'm Rachel S. Ruby, and today I have a treat for you. We are going to be talking about how to get what you want after divorce. Obviously, when you're going through the healing process and thinking of how to create this new life, this is a way that you can actually get what you want. And my guest today is Abby Gooch. Abby teaches men, women, and children worldwide how to connect with their intuition and how to use it to be successful in both business and in life. She is the founder of Life Force Connection, One Heart Global, and she is the author of Touch the Light, The Miracle of You, and the creator of the Intuitive Success Coaching Process and Certification Program. So Abby's nonprofit business, One Heart Global, teaches and supports children to live in love and safety and use intuition in order to succeed in life. So starting really young. I love that. That's wonderful. Welcome, Abby, to the podcast. You are just an amazing woman, and I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you. It's such an honor.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. So let's start off with talking a little bit about what you and I kind of discussed as awakening your inner wisdom. And can you I know I've talked in other podcasts about intuition, but can you give us a little refresh on exactly what it is and how we find ours if we don't think we can or don't know how?
So intuition is your innate wisdom, right? So it's already there. And ironically, sometimes it might be different than what somebody else says. So I know, like, for me, it's like I left a scholarship in college and the dean was like, "Are you crazy?" And I was like, "Maybe, but I'm going." And I started my company, right? So sometimes the road less traveled, but it is an inner knowing. The way I describe it most clearly is you bring your awareness into your heart. So everybody can do that. You put one or both hands on your heart, and you start to bring all your thoughts into the awareness of your heart frequency, which is love. And that connects us to each other and to all of life. Yeah. And then you take your other hand and you place it at your gut feeling. So a couple inches below your belly button. And that's your inner compass. So when I talk with the kids, it's like it's a magnetic pull forward. Like we'll take magnets sometimes and just you can feel that just draw towards something that you want and moving away from what you don't want, right? Yeah. And so it's listening to those inner nudges that are pulling you forward, and obviously moving away from the ones that don't feel good. And then also it can be an inner hearing, right? So you might just hear like a little whisper, like, "Hey, go in that direction." Or, you can get an inner vision of like, oh, like for the nonprofit, I would start seeing kids that had darker skin. So I was like, well, I think it's in another country. So I started just following what the vision was and it became reality, right? Like the first trip was Thailand and it was Bali. And so it was like, I would see before where I was meant to go. So it's like really opening up to that highest version of yourself. And then the Intuitive Success Club is like you align your energy, right? You have all your chakras that are aligned, so then it flows. And so that's really how we're intended to be, right? Is in that state of grace and just allowing.
Yeah. I think I teach a lot, not in the depth that you do in going into the chakras, but I teach a lot about intuition and love and self-love. And I think when one goes through a trauma like divorce, it's so hard sometimes to not only to listen to that inner voice, you might hear it, you might have these little nudges, but to trust it. Because when you go through something that is so difficult, sometimes we're in this space, in this victim mentality or even just negative space where it's so hard for us to trust. Like, how do we learn to trust that? Right. So I think that is a huge part of healing from divorce and from healing in many ways in general. Why is it so important? Why is trusting that such an important part when it comes to healing?
I just love that question because who are you not to trust? Like, you need to trust yourself. Like, who else can you trust but yourself, right? So I remember when I moved to Oregon, I had like the inner voice, like telling me what to do, right? My intuition totally guiding me. And I was like, man, I have to follow that voice, because what else am I going to listen to? I've got to trust that. You know what I'm saying? And especially, coming out of a divorce or some other significant trauma, like, it's even more important that you trust yourself. Yeah. Like, you have your own back. Like, your intuition is your best friend. It is your direct connection to the universe. So when you are listening to that, you are taking a stand for yourself. You are saying yes to you, right? So again, it's like, who are you not to trust? You need to trust yourself. Like, that's really, really important.
Yeah, I agree. And that's
trust yourself.
Yeah, but that's part of the healing. I mean, even for me, I'm a very, outgoing person, and I've always been very strong. I consider myself very strong and empowered. But when I went through this divorce healing process, I really kind of had to learn to trust myself again, because you start questioning, like, am I doing the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Because so many things change. Life as you know it, you might move out of your house. You might be splitting custody of your children. You might have to change jobs. I mean, there's so many things that change, and you go from this we to this me. And for a lot of people, especially in gray divorces like mine, you have been with someone for so long, and then all of a sudden you're just, here I am. And it's so easy. You might get, like I said, all these nudges, but it's sometimes you feel safer just like stick with what you know. Right. So let's talk a little bit about, let's kind of jump into the meaty part of this, which is what I'm sure everyone is going to tune into when they see the title. How does intuition enable us to create this new life that we envision? Or in other words, to get what we want? What are the steps that somebody has to take to make this happen?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question. So intuition.
How long you got?
I know, right? Well, I mean, it sets you up for success, right? So when you're listening to your intuition and you just take one step at a time. Mm-hmm. So I think you can get super overwhelmed when you start foreseeing too much, right? Because the mind can kind of spin out and be like, oh, that happened, this happened, and just goes on, right? So it's like, if you just take that first step that feels right. Okay, let me feel safe in that. Let me feel the groundedness in that, right? And there's a confidence that comes when you follow your intuition and you see the positive results. Oh, I took that step and it worked out.
Right.
So it's like building a muscle too, like you're basically growing your intuitive muscle. So it enables you to have the life you love, because you are creating the life you love from the inside out. Right. So again, going back to the chakras, you're like awakening your own inner vision. You're awakening your own love, and you're also finding forgiveness in your heart. Right. So like, your heart center is not only love, but it's going to be forgiveness too. Right. Because obviously you felt hurt, or you wouldn't be experiencing a trauma.
Right.
Right. So it just paves the way. So when you tune into your intuition and you awaken and you open up to your own guidance, it's paving the way internally to then take those steps externally to have what you want.
I love that's such a great. Yeah, I love that. It's so true, though, what you said about, and I talk about this too, celebrating those baby steps, because it can feel so overwhelming when you're kind of standing on the precipice of this healing journey, and you're looking and you're going, oh my gosh, I have so much work to do. How am I going to do this? And it could get, and this is where I help people. And I think that if you just focus on, like you said, one step at a time, and I say baby steps, because then it feels good. And then you say, okay, I did that. I can do this next one. Right?
Yeah. And it's also, like you said, loving yourself, like having this unconditional love and non-judgment. It's like, oh, like I can treat myself as I would treat my best friend, right? Like that pure love, like that actually holds a space for your intuition to speak to you, right? The judgment is usually the mind that comes in.
Mm-hmm. True. Right? So true. Yeah. So, okay. So I'm going to kind of go off course a little bit here, but let's say that, so I know personally, when I was younger, I was extremely intuitive, really crazy things. I mean, I won't go into it, but, I think at some point along the line, I don't want to say I lost that, but I guess I stopped listening at some point when I was unhappy within my life.
I got chills. You did. You just stopped listening. That's all
I stopped listening. And so that's one of the things I had to really I think for me, it came down to letting my inner child out, because I always say, and I say it in my book, that when I was going through the miserable years, I kind of hid her away in the closet. Like I don't know, she was, and I didn't realize it. And when I made the decision to move forward and I started healing, I realized, like, oh my goodness, I got to let my inner child out, because I need to have some fun. I need to let her know that it's okay. And once I did that, I started becoming more in touch with my intuition again, which was like a double whammy bonus, because I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah.
And it started talking to me more, and it started guiding me. And that was just amazing. And I know for some people, it's easier to look at it on the flip side, because sometimes it's really hard to trust a nudge or a voice or a sign or whatever. You think you see a sign, you're not sure. But if you think of it this way, when you do have intuition about something and you don't trust it, at some point you're going to say, oh, I knew I should have trusted that. Yeah. Right?
100%. And I've been on the side of it. Usually I follow my intuition, maybe like 2 times in my life. Right. But I want to get back to something you said that is so key. So you said you listen to your inner child. Now, your second chakra is actually your inner child. It's the home of your intuition. It's also the home of your creativity and your sexuality. So when you started listening to your inner child, you reopened your intuition.
And a lot of the other things you mentioned too that were kind of dormant. Yeah. So it was like this incredible awakening experience. Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. And here's the thing. So I'm super intuitive, but I always tell everybody they're their own best intuitive. So whatever I say, please only take what resonates. And if there's anything that doesn't, let it go. But what I heard coming in, why you got the divorce for you is because you needed to reconnect with your intuition. Like that was the lesson. That's why that happened. At least one of the reasons, because
one of them, yes.
So important.
Yes.
So important for you to listen. So that's like full circle to what you said. Like, why is it important to listen to our intuition to create what we want?
Yeah. And so many, I guess my own voice, that's kind of is the intuition, but it's also a separate part of the healing, which is, learning to love oneself, but, learning to just put the emphasis on me and what I need and what I want. And it's not being selfish. It's listening to the needs that, so many people say like, oh, well, that's selfish. And I say, no, there's a difference. Being selfish is when you do something to the detriment of someone else because you don't want that person to be successful, be happy, whatever. I mean, just as an example, there's many ways to be selfish, but I think you need to, especially when you're coming through this journey and you've gone through a trauma, you need to learn to put you first, because if you don't put you first, you can't heal. And I think we women, we tend to be like the caretakers and be the ones who want to do everything. And so it's sometimes when you come through the trauma and you're learning to heal, you really need to focus on you. And when you do that, that's when you start connecting with your intuition. That's when you start connecting with your inner child and all the other things. So
it's so 100% right. Absolutely. It's the foundation of love, right? So your first chakra is like feeling wanted and love. So you got to want yourself first.
Yeah. So talk a little more about chakras for those who don't really know what they are. Sure. And in kind of in a nutshell, just tell us about how they relate to healing. Yeah.
Yeah. So chakras, the main 7 that I work with are your energy centers. So they correlate to different physical and emotional aspects of your being. So basically and spiritual. So when you balance them, you're in balance. You're actually having the full imbalance. So it's like you have your first chakra of I'm safe. Then you have your second of feeling. Your third is believing in yourself and making choices that serve you. Your fourth is love. Your fifth is your expression. Your sixth is your vision. And your seventh is your connection to the universe, right? So when all of those are in balance, it's like you naturally flow, right? So you're able to like learn how to balance them. I ask specific questions that help you really dig into your purpose and, what you love and what your expression is and to open up to your vision. So yeah, when they're in balance, it's just a natural success follows. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like you can be imbalanced in many ways. I mean, if you didn't get enough sleep last night, like me, because my dog wasn't feeling well, I feel a little bit out of it today, right? So it's really great to have someone there to help you, to help guide you on all these things, because I learned which of my chakras were extremely imbalanced when I was going through this process, and I worked really hard on them. And of course, they can get imbalanced anytime. It's a constant work to keep yourself balanced, right?
Totally. Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. I read a quote of yours. I don't remember where I saw it. It might have been on your email, but it said, and I love this, it said, "Intuition awakens the soul within you, guiding you back home to who you are." And this is powerful, because healing from divorce means we have to learn who we are right now in the present moment compared to who we were back then in the marriage. And of course, we use those things we've done in the past to help guide us, but we really want to focus on being present, right? And that again is, I think, something that you probably talk about in your intuitive coaching as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, you can even just like look in the mirror and say, like, who am I? And look deeply into your own soul and feel the presence, because who you are is a presence, right? It's a soul. And ultimately, I believe you're love. We are all love, right? But for you to have that experience for yourself, I would just say, look in the mirror and see yourself, feel yourself, know yourself as the universe, right? Like, but you'll have your own experience, but just really look deeply into your own eyes. Feel the presence, and the answer will come to you.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Love is the foundation of everything. It's why we're here. It allows us not only to love ourselves, but to spread our love and love others and help others and the planet and other creatures. And if we all were united by that love, wouldn't it be a wonderful place in this world?
One heart level, baby.
Yeah. It's the goal. One person at a time. Right. But it's so worth it. And so many people, sometimes I start out with a new client and I ask, do you love yourself? And it's really interesting because oftentimes there's a pause. And some people say, of course. And some people will just say, I don't know, and I think, when I was going through it, at the very beginning of my journey, I always just, like I said before, I always thought of course I love myself, but I realized that I truly didn't, because I had locked my inner child away. I wasn't listening to my intuition. I had done so many things subconsciously, like I didn't plan to do those things. I didn't say, hey, I'm going to be really stoic and put my inner child in the closet. And, I didn't say, hey, I'm going to stop listening to signs, but I think I got to a place where, because I was unhappy, that it was a coping mechanism for me to just stay on this path, do what I do, and do the job, and finish this and do that, and take care of, my family. And so how does one, when you get into that kind of a situation, I know we talked a little bit about it, but if I were your client and I was just starting, I just went through a divorce and I felt like I don't really know much about intuition, and I want to, sometimes I've had these feelings in my life, and sometimes I listen, sometimes I haven't, and I want to trust myself more. So what can you go through, maybe, I don't know, a step or a lesson you could give me to start on that path?
I mean, what comes when you're talking is just to write down the question, what is my intuition telling me?
Okay.
Sit down and let it come through. Because it'll come through in words, because you're calling on that aspect of you, your intuition.
Right. Yeah. And that's, journaling was a huge thing for me all through my whole process, and still is. And also, when I go into meditation, I'll ask God or the universe, however you see it, to guide me. And I'll sometimes call on my angels too, because I know I have certain angels here watching over me, and who like to make themselves present sometimes in fun ways. But I will ask, what do I do here? And sometimes the answer will come right away, but sometimes it comes the next day, or sometimes it takes a while. And so I think,
And there's a reason for that, right? I mean, sometimes you're not meant to have that answer right away, right? Because you need to learn.
Yeah. I mean, I have a video called the intuitive pause, sometimes just take a pause and wait, and then you'll know. Because when you know something is right, you know it in your heart, you know it in your gut. It's pretty full body. Now your mind can second guess it after, right? But your body knows. It's like a receptor of energy. It's like an instrument of love, you could call it, like it really is. It's constantly, I mean, just think about all the cells that are vibrating and feeling the energy of you in this room and outside and the crow. And like, it's constantly interacting, right? So your mind is trying to track all of that, but your intuition already knows.
Yeah, that's so true. So I think it's great if you're out there listening to this or watching and you are, on your healing journey, starting your healing journey, about to, and you want to understand how to get more in tune with yourself and know what your direction, answers to certain questions or the big picture. Intuition is really a great place to start and learning how to hear it. And, so
you have people that come along the journey with you too. It's like you're listening to your and that will guide you to people to help you in places. Like you're not alone listening to your intuition, right? It's going to be a collaborative effort too,
Yeah. And I think also, it's just so key to not be afraid of that, because fear holds us back so often, right? So we might say, I'm going to move forward and create this beautiful life after divorce. I want to buy a new house. I want whatever I want. I want. But there's this fear because sometimes it means, or it usually means, that you have to make changes, and those changes might be scary, right? Mm-hmm. Financially, physically, so many different ways. And I don't know. I don't know if you want to add anything to that about kind of those blocks that keep us sometimes from listening or from even asking for guidance.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of my teachers has said, feel the fear and do it anyways.
That's great.
I think it's like, and it's feeling the discernment, like, okay, is this my knowing or is this my fear? And if it's my knowing, I know that's my intuition. That's the truth guiding me. If it's fear, is it real or unreal? Like, look at it. Like, what is it telling you? But don't let it stop you. Just get the message.
Yeah. And so many people do let fear stop them. So, but we all have the ability, we all have the ability to conquer that. And that's the empowerment. And so when we listen to the intuition and we trust ourselves and we, take the baby steps and we know that we are going to get through this and come out into that sunlight after going through that dark tunnel, then it's makes it a little bit easier. So the knowing, I love that. The knowing versus fear.
And it's also love, right? So when you're in love, the fear disappears. It's kind of like turning a light on,
Yeah. And that was a big, I worked a lot on my heart chakra. That was probably where I spent most of the time, because it was suffering. It was neglected. And I fell so in love with me and who I am and with my life and with just the beauty in the world. Like I went through this awakening where it was like, I don't know. I always used to think like, do people wonder if I'm on drugs or something? Because I was so happy. And some people, it was very interesting to watch when you talk about energy, how some people reacted to that energy, because it was this experience for me that I had never had. And I was just like, oh my gosh, hi, you're beautiful. It's wonderful. And some people would be like, you have this amazing energy. And some people would just be like, you can see them. They're not in touch with their energy. I mean, they're kind of scared of me. Yeah.
100%. Funny. I wrote about that in my book too. Like I came out of the ocean and I was like, I think a surfer looked at me and maybe thought I was on drugs because I was just so happy. It was the same experience, right? It was just like, I was so blissfully happy.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, people like to comment from a negative space sometimes on my posts and say, how can you be so happy? Or, this is, you're fake, or, it's just like, people, I promise you can too be happy. There is a way. It's not, Abby and I haven't swallowed a magic pill. We've done a lot of work. It involves a lot of work, and you've got to let that fear go and dive into that work, because look at the result. It's amazing.
Totally. 100%.
Amazing.
100%. That's right on.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add about what you do in your intuitive coaching, and anything else you want to share?
I mean, I think if you're feeling called, if your inner knowing is like, ooh, I want to learn more, I want to develop my intuition. If you have like a specific goal or dream and you want to increase your income or bring your partner in, whatever it is, like, I'd love to help you, because it's fun to help you awaken those chakra centers, clear your blocks, and step into it. It's like it becomes a dream to reality. And it's just like, wow, I'm really living it. Like, it's just really exciting.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to put all your information up here. If you're watching on YouTube, it will be in the notes and also on the screen here, and where you can reach Abby. And if you are listening, that will be in the show notes as well. Abby, why don't you share with us some places where people can find you to get motivated and inspired?
So you can go to www.theintuitivesuccessclub.com and click on My Intuition Says Yes. And that puts you in touch with our team. And we could just inspire you by seeing your greatness and helping you clear those blocks of fear, whatever it is. And then our main site is lifeforceconnection.com. So.
Okay. And I think you mentioned something when you and I chatted about a complimentary intuitive focus session. Is that something that's available to people? Where can they find that?
Yeah. So if you go to theintuitivesuccessclub.com and click on My Intuition Says Yes, that's exactly what you get, the intuitive focus session. So either myself or one of the members will dive in, see your greatness, help you clear those fears, and take those next steps.
Fantastic. So I'm so excited. This was wonderful. And I think it just is another way to offer to those people who are going through divorce or other trauma and trying to heal and not really knowing how. This is another tool for you. This is a big one. And reach out to Abby if you want some more information on learning about your intuition. Thank you so much for being here. It was so much fun. Yeah, I had a great time, and maybe we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.